This is my assessment portfolio that we have created over the endurance of our semester this year in fall of 2015. My first part of my portfolio was I had to pick my content area standards, and I chose second grade English language arts, and the first one was ask and answer such questions as who, what, where, why, and how to demonstrate understanding of key details in a text. Social studies was the second part that I chose with English language and arts, and it says describe why people in one country trade goods and services with people in other countries. So that was the first part. The second part required us to make performance assessments with a rubric and a checklist. So on the rubric, let's see, on the rubric I chose to make one where you had to choose between 3, 2, 1, and 0. And on 3 it says student showed an understanding of the topic, includes at least 3 detailed examples from the material we read. All information was correct. So this is the highest one. I'm not going to read every one of these, but on the lowest one it says, which is 0, it says student left paper blank, student wrote incorrect response. And on the checklist I put participated in a classroom discussion about the topic, asked questions and answered other students' questions, discussed with a partner about the subject, wrote a report on why countries trade goods and services with people from other countries, and read report to class. As you can see, I used this from my standards. On the third assessment that we had to make was our learning styles assessment, and on the learning styles assessment I found this on the web because I think we had to research this. Yeah, we did. I have the link to it. And this was one that I found really interesting, and it helped with my standards make that clear, another way that I can figure out whether or not my students were understanding what I taught. And if you go to this website down here, it will take you straight to it. My computer's kind of slow, so give me a second. And you can, when it gets there, it'll give you the option to take it or not, or where you can find it actually. But that is also a link to where you can find it. I don't know why my computer's taking so long. Oh well. I'll just go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, on the fourth one, let's see, this was the self and peer evaluation. You can't really, this was the best I could get of this one. I couldn't make it any bigger to fit it on here for some reason. This is the only one I had trouble with, but I used smiley faces in between smiley faces and sad faces, and then sad faces. And one is the peer, and it's asking questions that the students would judge the other students, and then the other is the self, and that's where the student will judge itself. On the fifth assessment, which is the diagnostic assessment, I made a pretest, and it says, what is an example of goods or resources? What does trading mean when involving two countries? Does the United States trade goods and resources with other countries? Who has the power to trade goods and resources with other countries? Are trading goods and resources good or bad for our country? So this is still pertaining to my standards from the very beginning. On the next assessment was our technology assessment, and we had to research this, and I thought this app was really cool. After seeing what Becca did in class, I found something kind of similar to that. It's an app that you can get from the App Store, and it's called iClicker, and you type in the questions, and the students in the class can use from their iPads or iPhones, or I think even the other phones with the Androids can do this too. Yeah, you can, because I found it on my phone. But the student would click the answer, and it could all show up on a big screen in the room, like on the board if you have it projected on the board, and the whole class can see the answers and how many of them got them right or how many of them got them wrong. And I have the, yeah, it's the iClicker is what it was on the App Store that you would have to look up. The next assessment was the teacher-made formative and modified formative assessments. And on the modified formative assessment, I put for a student with disabilities, I made it easier for them by doing multiple choice and only giving them 2 choices. It says, what are some goods and services that countries trade every day? And as you can see, I put 2 choices on each of these questions. Whereas on the teacher-made formative assessment over my standards, which both of these are over my standards, on the one on the right, let's see, it says please write 1 or 2 sentences, or no, 1 or 2 sentence answers for each question, and it's basically just short answers is what it is. And on the teacher-made summative and modified summative assessments, on the modified one, I did the same thing, but this is for an overall understanding of the whole unit that I would have taught over these goods and services. And I still only gave them 2 choices. And even for a bonus, I just said, name 1 good or service that countries trade besides oil, giving them a tip, making it easier if maybe they could remember. And on just the regular summative assessment, I did a fill in the blank for 2 questions, and I did a true and false on two questions, and they had 1 short answer, but they still had a total number of 5, just like on the modified, and they also had a bonus question. And then we did how to correlate all these items, and this is just showing you my PowerPoint that I made to explain what each one of these were and how they correlated to tests in the Danielson domains and the conceptual frameworks. And our state standards, I said what they are and what we use them for, and how it says our state standards correlate with tests, Danielson domains, and with the conceptual framework because these standards are our guidelines for teachers and our responsibilities to teach. All of these guidelines of our teaching as well and show that we must fulfill our responsibilities as teachers. And on a lot of these, they all really tie together and do the same thing, and they all correlate with the tests and Danielson domains and conceptual frameworks. And that's basically, it talks about being our professional responsibilities on a lot of these things where we have to reflect as teachers, see how we're doing so we can judge ourselves to make us better. And that's what I did on almost all of my slides, was explain that, but I also explained what these assessments are good for and what we can find when we're using them. Like on the self-and-peer evaluations, I said self and peer evaluations help students and teachers both by showing them how well the students think they know the content or how well the other students think that they know the content. And like I said, as far as the correlating, they all correlate almost the same. Like this one says professional responsibility too. This one says on the technology assessments that the conceptual, they all tie because we as teachers are supposed to make instruction interesting to our students and use new and useful techniques every day. And these are all in the tests and Danielson domains. It just tells you how we're supposed to better ourselves and better our teaching. And on this one, I explained what the formative assessment, what the difference between formative and summative is formative assessments, they help teachers find out how well students are doing during the middle or even at the beginning of a lesson. And on this one's a little different on how they tie into it. It says it's a part of planning and preparation, which is a must for teachers to do so they can make sure students are understanding. And on the summative, I explained that it's just for after a whole lesson was taught. And this says that they tie they correlate because they help with our instruction and knowledge so that we can know whether to change or not even teach this lesson in the future or in a different way. And in conclusion, The conceptual frameworks, Danielson domain tests, all tie together and make one big significant guideline list for teachers. They are all shooting for the same goal, and every one of these assessments all correlate for the same reason: a teacher's responsibility to do the best teaching for the students so that they can learn the easiest and best way for the students to learn. Thank you.